So is Disney really going to bring back Michael Eisner to try to end this woke, anti-woke, toxic Disney environment? Well, watch the video and find out, but I want to show you a picture. This is Michael Eisner's last day at Disney. This was September 30th, 2005. And I should know because I actually took this picture. My name's Russell Corey. I'm a former Disney employee. I'm also, full disclosure, a stockholder in Disney and a stockholder in AMC, which we'll get to later. But this was a momentous day. Now, most of the time at Disney, I scheduled commercials. It wasn't really that interesting, and I was just a grunt in a cubicle. But every once in a while, there would be something special. And Michael Eisner's last day at Disney, that was pretty special. I remember when I first started working for Disney, I went to an all-hands meeting, and we were still somewhat small at that point. But I remember seeing Michael Eisner in person for the first time, and I'm like, wow, I couldn't believe it. I mean, this guy was a legend in the business world, and this was 2002 when I first started working at Disney. And it was amazing to see him and knowing all the things he had done. And I'll share a couple other pictures of working at Disney that were around this moment. This is meeting John Lasseter. And a lot of times I would take pictures of people. I wouldn't necessarily get in the pictures. This one I wanted a picture with the director of Toy Story and Pixar, one of the Pixar founders. And then this was another great picture. This was the day after Disney bought Star Wars, and this was at a Halloween costume contest, and Bob Iger was one of the judges, and I got this picture. But let's go back to Michael Eisner's last day and to really get an understanding of what Michael Eisner meant to Disney. There's only one Walt Disney, but what Michael Eisner did was pretty incredible, and we'll get into that in a minute. But just a recap of my channel. I started this channel in last November 2022, to advocate that Disney should buy the AMC movie theater chain. And I felt that way because I felt the Disney brand needed to be more accessible to people and to survive and thrive. And also AMC needed to make going to the movies special again. And having a partnership with Disney would be amazing. And it's based on this idea that every kid should meet Mickey Mouse, that the Disney brand is so dependent on getting these young Mickey Mouse fans and establishing that bond early. And unfortunately, there's only two places to really do that: Disneyland, Disney World. And if you don't live in Southern California or Southern Florida, it's hard to get to these places, especially now. It's so expensive to fly and travel. And the idea is, if Disney bought AMC, they could set up these Disney entertainment centers, and you could bring Disney to the people. And you could buy the food that you get at the parks at these theaters, and that you could also have characters there, and they could meet Mickey Mouse. Maybe, once a month he comes by the movie theater or what have you. But there's whole videos. You can go to my channel and watch the Disney buys AMC videos, and you can get caught up on that. But that's how my channel started, and that if you're just watching it for the first time. But let's talk about Michael Eisner and what he would, this kind of bold initiative. This is something that Michael Eisner would have done. He was the CEO from Disney from 1984 to 2005. And recently he tweeted, this was again around November when I started my channel. Michael Eisner tweeted this: "The Walt Disney Company has suffered in recent years. This is a good time for us to remember the words of Walt Disney, who said, 'Everybody falls down. Getting back up is how you learn to walk.'" And what a great quote. And if you're curious what Michael Eisner has been up to recently, he owns a company, he owns a soccer team, I believe. He's got, producing a couple TV shows. And he's got a Twitter, so look him up and find out. And recently, Michael Eisner was on CNBC. This was March 14th. This was a tweet that you can find and watch the clip if you want to. And he was talking about, streaming and the movies. But it's the great quote I loved from this interview: "Movies are not going away." And I love that quote from Michael Eisner. Michael Eisner is a movie guy. Important to remember that. And if you want to really watch a good video on his career at Disney, Review Time has a great video, How Michael Eisner Saved the Disney Company. Check it out. It's a great video. But I'll give you kind of a recap of his career. So Michael Eisner, he ran Paramount Pictures. When he was there, they did Saturday Night Fever. and Raiders of the Lost Ark. A great story about that. George Lucas and Steven Spielberg teamed up, and they took that project to all the studios, but the deal they wanted was heavily in their favor. All the studios said, no, we can't make money with this deal. Forget it. We don't want it. And even Michael Eisner turned them down, but then he had second thoughts and said, how do you say no to these guys? How do you say no to George Lucas and Steven Spielberg? And they made the deal happen. In the early 80s, the Disney company was still struggling after the loss of Walt. And they were targets of takeovers, hostile takeovers. So the Disney board went out and recruited Michael Eisner to come in and run Disney. And Michael Eisner did this very boldly, and he almost became the new Walt. Now, there's only one Walt, but Michael Eisner wasn't afraid to step in those shoes. He hosted TV shows, and he put himself out as the public face of the Walt Disney Company. And he also wasn't afraid to use treasured Disney assets to make the company money. Video cassettes were just coming out. VHS video cassettes were popular during this time. And he wanted to release the Disney movies on VHS, but the old-time Disney people are like, you can't do this. These Disney movies are special. We re-release them in the theater, and if you put them on video, nobody would come to see them in the movies again. So they came up with this idea, the Disney Vault, that every once in a while they would sell the videos to try and create that scarcity and make them special. But at least he put forward this idea of doing it, and they made a lot of money selling Disney videos. And now, of course, he also realized, hey, if you want to sell VHS tapes to the kids in 2023, you got to make sure you have more movies. So he was part of redoing the Disney animation studio and bringing that back to life. They hadn't had a hit in a while, and they got back to the great songs that started really an amazing run with Little Mermaid. I believe that was in 1989, and through The Lion King and Aladdin, and just amazing run with the animation films. Also, regular live action films. He made Disney films cool. They created the Touchstone brand. Films like Pretty Woman. Could you imagine Walt Disney approving a movie about a prostitute? But there it was. It was a huge hit, classic. And then also, think of the computer-generated Toy Story that Eisner saw, John Lasseter winning these Oscars for his short computer-generated films, and he wanted Eisner wanted Lasseter to come to Disney and make a computer film for them. Now, some could argue, oh no, that's not the way we do it at Disney. It's all hand drawing. Walt wouldn't like that, but Eisner saw the future, and he was willing to do that. Also, the parks. He was willing to expand the parks. He created the MGM Studios. And it's funny, at the time, they had to add the MGM part because nobody would think of movies when they thought of Disney. Disney movies were so bad that they couldn't sell Disney movies. They had to get the MGM branding on there to make it seem like it was a real movie. It's hard to believe, but it's true. But then Euro Disney, which became Disneyland Paris, Disney California Adventure, Hong Kong, Disneyland. Just this, big expansion of, places where people could go and have that Disney experience. And then on a smaller scale, he invented the Disney Store, which came to malls, and also Disney Quest, which was like an arcade, place where people could come. Not too dissimilar from the idea of Disney buying AMC. The difference would be that Disney buying AMC would be a combination of all three: a Disney Store, a Disney Quest, and the AMC movie theater. So you would have, three big streams of revenue: the Disney experience, the Disney products, and you just have your traditional movies to get people going there. But he did all these amazing things. Not everything was perfect. Not everything went well. Not everything was a success. But it was bold, and that's the kind of leadership Disney needs. Now, I want to get back to Toy Story. Michael Eisner had the vision to, bring Lasseter in and have, the Pixar team do Toy Story. But, as Pixar's success grew, it became harder to get deals done because Pixar's power grew so much because their films were so successful. And Michael Eisner, in his view, he was looking out for the company, and these deals were becoming, too favorable to Pixar. So in the end, he had the right to some of the Pixar films that he could make without their permission, and he was willing to let them walk away. Michael Eisner was willing to stand up to Steve Jobs, the legendary Steve Jobs, and say, go pound sand, that that's hard to imagine, but that's who Michael Eisner was, for better or worse. And one of the reasons why maybe he got transitioned out and Iger came in, because he was this strong personality. He was a big man. I think he was 6'2", 6'3", and I remember seeing him, just that big presence that he had, but he wasn't intimidated. And I think maybe that strong presence and leadership is what you need now to bring Disney back to basics. Here we're going to talk about some big things here, and it's not about right or wrong, but we have to talk about these things in terms of the Disney brand and in terms of business. So please hang in with me on the video as we talk about these issues. Don't turn it off. Stay with me for as long as you can. But somehow, Walt Disney transitioned into woke Disney. Now, whether you agree with that or not, or you hate it or you love it, but that's the reality that we stand in today. Now, I'm going to be fully honest with you. I believe in equality. I believe in diversity. Now, the issue seems to be, and I think most people will probably agree with that, the issue is, how do you get there? How do you do this? And that's the hard part. I think that's where we're finding conflict. And I think we have to be very careful when you say, you can say you're anti-woke, right? But you can't say you're racist. If you say you're racist, you're going to get canceled, and there's going to be ramifications to that. But a lot of people can say, well, I'm anti-woke. I just don't like anti-woke. And I wonder, I think of the scene in Jaws when the mayor's saying, look, you can be on a beach and you can shout barracuda, and people are going to go, what, huh, what? But if you're on a beach and you yell shark, that's a panic. So I think there's a difference between, well, I'm anti-woke and I'm racist. And sometimes those things can get blurred. But we're going to talk about this. And I'm not saying if you're anti-woke, you're racist. But I see some blending sometimes, and it's a little uncomfortable. But again, let's look at this as the picture, because the idea is this is not healthy for the Disney brand. Right or wrong, this isn't a good thing. This is not working. The Disney, worthless kingdom, the woke war plan. Disney gives into the woke mob. All this Disney branding, going down the drain with all this controversy, and it just seems like everybody's antagonized about this. But is it really as bad as people predict? Look at these Avatar videos that people are putting out. Avatar not woke enough. Avatar tanks Disney stock. It's the biggest bomb ever. This is so dumb. All these negative things on Avatar. Well, how did this woke business, was Avatar really woke? I don't know. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But did it really hurt it? Well, let's see. It only became the third highest grossing film of all time. It beat Titanic. Now, do you want to make the case that if it wasn't so woke, it could be the number 1 or the number 2 film? Is that your argument? So, I understand that there's people that are angry about how woke is being handled at Disney and it's ruining Disney. Yet you can't argue with the success of Avatar: The Way of Water. But there's just something that just doesn't feel right about this toxic environment. Now, Peter Pan, there's this diversity in casting with the new Peter Pan film, and you see this reaction, this visceral reaction that people are having, like, we don't like this. I'll be blunt, we don't like seeing these brown faces in traditionally white roles, and but don't call me a racist. I'm just saying I don't like this. Look, that's the hard part that we're dealing with. What is woke? What is racist? The same thing with the Little Mermaid trailer. But the bottom line is this: whether right, wrong, what side you're on, this isn't good for Disney. And it's not good for other Disney brands. This is Star Wars. Star Wars, when I grew up, Star Wars was awesome. I loved Star Wars. But look at all these videos. Disney cancels Star Wars. Disney makes Luke, gay. Disney's, ratings crash. And, resist Disney, resist Star Wars. This isn't good. Disney's ruining Marvel and Star Wars. Another one is the woke empire crumbling. Disney's becoming a joke, or the Star Wars is becoming a joke franchise. It's too woke. So it's not good. And you think about the differences between these two. And what Eisner did was he really built, using Disney assets, really built the company and expanded it. Bob Iger's big thing was going out and acquiring these assets, getting Pixar, getting Star Wars, getting Marvel. But then look at the state of these franchises right now. Now, yes, some of them still generate money, but they also generate this controversy and this toxic environment that's just not good. What good does it do to go out and acquire these things if you don't take care of these brands? And one of the problems might have been is you say, well, why did it get so political? And again, right or wrong, Bob Iger wanted to run for president. He had presidential ambitions. So you gotta wonder, how did that factor into running the company? He seriously considered a presidential run. And here's a quote, a story of Bob Iger. I wanted to run for president, but my family shut it down. They did not like that idea, and the rest is history. Now, right or wrong, I like Bob Iger when I worked there. And quite honestly, I might vote for him for president. I thought he did a good job, and I think he's a good leader, right? But he's got some issues if he wants to run for president, because he's going to run as a Democrat, and he's a white male. And the Democratic Party, it's a diverse party. There's a strong female presence, and they want female candidates. There's minority presence, and they want minority candidates. It's like, how do you say you want to be diversity and you want female empowerment, but yet we're always getting white male candidates for office, right? So what does he have to do? He has to let it be known that he's comes out strongly for diversity. So if he's running Disney and you are recasting a lot of these roles in that were traditionally white roles, and now the African American actors have an opportunity to be in them, he can make that case, right? And the other thing was with the Star Wars. Listen, growing up, I was a fan of Kathleen Kennedy. I knew about Spielberg and her producing Jurassic Park and stuff. But my goodness, the Disney and Lucasfilm division has been so mismanaged with these films that it's just terrible. And it's whether it's woke or not woke, but the mismanagement of this brand has been absolutely horrible. The problem for Bob Iger is he probably couldn't fire Kathleen Kennedy because, one, she's extremely powerful and connected, I would imagine. But two, what kind of message does that send that Bob Iger, fired a female executive running this division because all these nerdy white males were upset about how, they were putting girls in Star Wars movies, right? That probably wouldn't have played out so well on the campaign trail. He certainly could have gone after him on that. Is not supporting, these female executives. Again, right or wrong, that's not the point. The point is, it's a reality. If he wanted to run for president, that was a liability that he had to worry about, and maybe that worrying about that liability didn't let him worry about the brand and saying, this is not working. Something is wrong here and it needs to be fixed. And I'll give you an example, okay? Let's get away from the male, Star Wars and Marvel here real quick. Let's just say Disney acquired the Strawberry Shortcake brand. Welcome to the Disney family, Strawberry Shortcake. We got a lot of big plans for you, and the person we're going to bring in to carry out those plans is Dana White of the UFC, the mixed martial arts guy. Because you can't argue with the success of that, right? And we just think, look, Strawberry Shortcake's a great brand, but again, diversity goes both ways. And we think, the Strawberry Shortcake brand needs to be more diverse, and it needs to be able, white males, young white males, alpha males, aggressive males, they need to feel like they have a place in the Strawberry Shortcake brand too. So we think Dana White's going to do that, and we're going to change the brand to try and, make it more diverse. Now that's absolutely crazy, right? Nobody in their right mind would say that's a good idea. The Strawberry Shortcake brand appeals to young girls, and that's what it should be, right? Well, Star Wars and Marvel, they had their brands too, and they had their appeal, and they had their audiences. And maybe in the name of diversity and equality, they started to change that. And in the core group that supported these brands were not happy. And maybe that's the difference between Michael Eisner and Bob Iger. Michael Eisner, when I was at Disney, brand management was so crucial that, and there was the Disney look that employees had to have. That was a very crucial thing. And under Bob Iger, who knows, maybe that changed a little bit for his presidential ambitions. I don't know. Or in the spirit of, supporting diversity, which I think Disney should absolutely do. Mickey Mouse and Disney should be about supporting diversity, but it also needs to be about supporting your brand basics. It's a business. And if you're not going to take care of your brands, not going to take care of your business, you're not going to be in business any longer, and you're not going to do anybody any good at that point. So my feeling going forward is Disney, yes, support diversity, but also support your brand basics. And that's what I think someone like, Michael Eisner might be able to do. I think Michael Eisner also has that bold approach to double Disney, to grow this company, to get it moving again. Don't just nickel and dime people when they go to a Disney park. Create new revenue streams separate from that and use those Disney assets. You have, the experience of a kid meeting Mickey Mouse is priceless, right? And you have all these people all over the country that don't have access to Disneyland or Disney World. Bring Disney to the people. And I think that's the kind of thing Michael Eisner would have done. So if you bring back Michael Eisner, could you really do that? Is it really realistic? Probably not. He's already doing things. He's probably looking forward to retirement at this point, and whether or not that's realistic or not, I don't know. To actually bring back the man, Michael Eisner, probably isn't going to work. However, you can bring back that Eisner spirit. And it's not about ending woke Disney. It's about returning the Disney magic. And that Disney magic is equality. It is diversity. And people love this Disney brand. And let's, do something to end this toxic environment. Have some kind of reset where, we say, look, this is what Disney stands for, but obviously something has to be addressed here so that we're not creating this huge, toxic environment where every time we make any kind of move, half the people are, having fits about it and, having flame wars and videos and blogs and tweets about how terrible Disney is. That's not healthy. So bring back the Michael Eisner spirit, get Disney back to the, basics, return the Disney magic. If you like this video, please watch more. Subscribe to the channel if you can. I appreciate you watching. Thanks so much. Thank you.